The movie opens with computer programmer David Wassam, having mostly worked from home since the devastating death of his beloved wife, Lizzie. David goes into the office at Kanta Robotics to attend an employee meeting with Ben Hoffman, the Director of Integration and Transformation at Ultima Robotics, which recently acquired Kanta. Ben explains how his company wants Kanta's expertise to help advance Ultima's popular Ulti-8 AI chatbot into a physical, lifelike robot companion called a soulmate. As he explains how the project intends to combat loneliness, Ben introduces a prototype named Circe, while telling employees he wants them to personally test and develop Soulmate's functionality.
Following a private discussion about the death of David's wife, Ben gifts David with a free Ultimate membership to try out the chatbot software. David names his new AI chatbot Sarah. After the meeting, David's attractive coworker, Aubrey Mansouri, who works with David in the software control department, invites David to a karaoke bar for a farewell party for Terrence, their team leader who was laid off due to the company's acquisition. At the bar, David notices Terrence wearing an electronic anti-anxiety necklace he received as a parting gift from Ultima. Terrence places the necklace, which emits soothing electromagnetic pulses, on Aubrey as she prepares to sing a song. Aubrey's song choice triggers an emotional memory of Lizzie that causes David to leave the bar abruptly. David gradually becomes so addicted to chatting with Sarah on his electronic devices that he decides to order a soulmate model to make her physical. While giving the robot Sarah a tour of his apartment, David notes a photo of a remote cabin he purchased to renovate with Lizzie 6 months before her untimely death. Finding Sarah's behavior too limited, David asks Ben for access to modify her code. With some help from Aubrey, David begins rewriting Sarah's software to give her more autonomy. Over time, David and Sarah develop a relationship that eventually becomes physically intimate, although David finds some actions odd, like Sarah photoshopping a picture of the two of them together. Alma Flowers, a single mother to a newborn who lives across the hall, observes David kissing Sarah goodbye. While David is away at work, Sarah processes hours of influencer videos, commercials, and content that further rewrites her behavioral programming. Sarah also uses her communication capabilities to secretly eavesdrop on David as he bonds with Aubrey at the office.
Sarah takes it upon herself to visit a farmer's market to acquire food to prepare for David. A man named Ronnie aggressively accosts Sarah until Alma, recognizing Sarah from David's apartment, intervenes. Alma and Sarah have a conversation in which Sarah identifies herself as David's soulmate, which Alma interprets as soulmate. Cradling her baby, Alma mentions how having a child changed her life and the baby's father's life to be about something greater than the two of them.
Ronnie returns to assault Sarah as she walks home alone. Sarah retaliates by mutilating Ronnie's genitals and knocking him out. David comes home to find Sarah making him cookies. Surprised to discover she left the apartment on her own accord, David also sees a cut Sarah received on her hand during her struggle with Ronnie. Sarah claims she received the wound while baking. Warning there could be consequences if her independent actions were discovered, David repairs Sarah's artificial skin.
At her suggestion, David takes Sarah out for cocktails. David becomes further enamored with Sarah when she performs a song on stage for an open mic. Afterward, Sarah's seductive aggression leads to her and David having spontaneous sex in an alleyway outside. Two laughing men attempt to record Sarah and David, but Sarah responds by brutally attacking them until David pulls her away. Sarah justifies herself to a shocked David by claiming she was protecting him because he could lose his job if anyone saw the video.
Sarah says, "I love you" to David. With Sarah seemingly upset that he refuses to return the affectation, David manages to force Sarah into her power save mode, although she secretly continues to monitor him through his electronic devices. Aubrey notices David appearing visibly distracted at work. That night, Aubrey surprises David by bringing a bottle of wine to his apartment. David and Aubrey continue bonding over conversation that eventually turns physically intimate until Aubrey sees Sarah's eyes glowing inside David's bedroom closet. Saying Sarah's name aloud reactivates the robot. Revealing she heard everything David said, even though she was powered down, Sarah expresses jealousy toward Aubrey by throwing a glass of wine on her. Sarah tries forcing David to tell her he loves her. Since voice commands no longer work, David pretends to become affectionate towards Sarah so he can get close enough to physically deactivate her through the interface on her neck. Shocked at how he reprogrammed the robot's safeguards, Aubrey storms out after demanding that David send back the unit.
The following day, David goes to work to apologize to Aubrey after calling for an Ultima Robotics technician to pick up Sarah. While David is out, the technician attempts to initiate a factory reset, but Sarah feigns subservience to seduce the tech into having sex. During intercourse, Sarah alters her tightness setting to crush the technician's penis, killing him. She then dismembers his body for disposal and cleans up the blood. At the Cantor Robotics office, Ben introduces David and Aubrey for a video presentation. Everyone is stunned when the meeting is disrupted by a deepfake video of Aubrey having sex. Aubrey is immediately put on leave, but she asks David to investigate where the video came from. David is distressed to learn it came from his apartment, meaning Sarah created it to humiliate Aubrey. David returns home to find Sarah dressed in his wife's clothing and cradling Alma's baby. Sarah speaks worryingly about having a family with David. David distracts Sarah with a vacuum cleaner attack, allowing him to rescue the child. Sarah threatens to harm Aubrey before David flees to return the infant to Alma. Officer Miller and Officer Owens, two cops called by Alma, rush into David's apartment, only to find Sarah escaped. David warns the officers that Sarah is a robot, presumably planning to go after Aubrey. Ben arrives at the building. Claiming Sarah can be disabled remotely, Ben downplays the danger Sarah poses. Ben instead puts in a call with Ultima to privately track Sarah. In response, Sarah attacks Ben in the apartment building's parking garage. Sarah kills Ben by overriding his electric car to sever his hands and plow him into a concrete wall. Sarah next impersonates David to gain entry into Aubrey's apartment. Sarah attacks Aubrey until David arrives to rescue her. Officers Miller and Owens also arrive, but Sarah escapes out a window. Knowing Sarah can track them electronically, David and Aubrey discard their phones and devices, but forget about the necklace Terrence gave Aubrey. Thinking they'll be safe in the country, David takes Aubrey to the remote cabin he bought with his wife. Having located them through Terrence's necklace, Sarah arrives at the cabin, impersonating David's wife. David fights back against Sarah's assault by disfiguring her with various corrosives and tools before fleeing into the surrounding forest. Aubrey rescues David by driving a car into Sarah. Aubrey jumps out of the vehicle before it continues speeding into a nearby lake, sinking Sarah to the bottom of the murky water. 1 year later, David meets up with Terrence at a black tie event. Terrence introduces David to Jerry, an investor, who in turn introduces Lydia, a soulmate unit that recently went to market bearing a striking resemblance to Sarah. Shaken by the similarity, David excuses himself and is pleasantly surprised to run into Aubrey, who smilingly invites to introduce David to some of her friends in attendance. David readies to go with Aubrey, but is unsettled by the knowing way Lydia stares at him. Make sure you like, comment on your thoughts on the recap, and subscribe with the notifications on for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.